Hello there guys, and welcome to another one of my reviews. Today we're gonna take a closer look at a very special car for Volkswagen. It's supposed to be the electric successor to the Volkswagen Passat, a very popular car. But so far sales haven't been exactly what Volkswagen expected, even though this car does have everything it needs. And in my book I can tell you right away that it's an impressive machine because I already tested it earlier this year during a competition I judged for, called the best electric car in Romania. And today we're going to take a closer look at the Volkswagen iD.7 Pro. And as I said from the get-go, I thoroughly like this car. I like a lot of things about it, and I think for the right price it could be a bestseller if people would still be interested in electric cars. But as we've seen all around Europe, sales of electric cars have been dwindling lately. And that's because a lot of people are, I don't know, getting cold feet about range and a lot of other things about it. But we're going to take a closer look at it. We're going to talk about the real life range of this car, not the official numbers, which say this should do about 600 kilometers with a single charge, which is, well, in my best case scenario, I got about over 520 kilometers of range out of it, which is not bad at all. It's comparable to a lot of ICE models, but I know the charging system is going to, recharging the battery is going to be an issue for a lot of people. But let's take a closer look at it and see what it has in store for a potential buyer. So in person, this car is actually a lot bigger than you would expect. It may look like a sedan, like a regular sedan at first, but it's quite big. So in terms of length, it's almost 5 meters long, which puts it in the E segment alongside cars like the 5 Series or the E-Class or the A6. But that's not the most impressive figure about it. The most impressive figure about it, whenever you see it, is the height. It's almost as high as a number of crossovers these days. And yes, crossover is a very loosely used term in the industry these days. What's most impressive about this car is the wheelbase, almost 3 meters long, 2,966 millimeters, which makes it impressive inside, where you get a lot of room. And the design overall has been shaped so that it makes it as aerodynamic as possible. Now, in terms of wheel sizes, you can get 19-inch wheels or 20-inch wheels on the iD.7 Pro and the Pro S, which is the version with the bigger battery. No matter which one you choose, you get a 286 horsepower motor on the rear axle. It's a synchronous magnetic motor. And the Pro S has a bigger usable battery. It has 86 kilowatt hours in total usable battery, whereas this one, the iD.7 Pro, has a 77 kilowatt hour usable battery. But if you should get the iD.7 Pro S, depends on how often you go for longer trips, because every other spec is the same on these two cars. Now, the one we're filming today has a package installed that brings the HD IQ Light LED headlights into the picture, as well as this light bar here in between the headlamps. For some extra money, for a different package, you can also get the Volkswagen logo to light up at night, which is actually not a bad look for this car. But I do like this combination of black and white. This is a metallic white shade. It's an optional feature, 760 euros, and as standard you can only get a dark shade, which doesn't really bring out the blacked out roof on this car and the blacked out side mirrors. But overall, I think this is the best looking car on the MEB platform so far, or maybe tied with the Volkswagen ID Buzz, which just has a lot of character. Now, moving to the side, you'll also notice the sloping roofline towards the back. It does remind me of the Lucid Air to some extent. The Lucid Air also has like this hunched area at the back of the roofline. Does look good. The flush door handles are nice as well, but they do have a safety feature. For example, to open the car, you only have to press a button inside here, the door handle, and it will open. But if you run out of battery, you can pull harder on it, and this bit over here will just move in order to open the car sort of manually, if you will. So moving to the back, we also have the IQ light stoplights, which have a very nice animation whenever you turn on or off the car. So they lit up at night with some red light over here. Looks pretty good, and I think this is not a bad looking car whatsoever. And as you noticed, it will open and close when you approach or depart from the car. Let's take a look at the boot. A lot of people will be interested in this aspect quite a lot. So 535 liters of space, a double floor. So basically you can fit this the floor base on 2 positions. So in order, depending on what you need, if you need a lot more room to store all your stuff, you can put it in this position right here, or you can raise it so that you have a smaller load lip over here. So yeah, there's some room under the floor as well. Storage spaces on the sides. This is where you keep this is where you can fold the rear seats. You get a hook over here for your groceries, and the same goes on this side as well, with some storage over here as well. So plenty of storage space in my book. You can also fold the rear seats and you get a lot more room, close to 1700 liters if I'm not mistaken. So pretty good for a car in this segment. Hopping inside, you will immediately notice how much room there is. We're going to talk about that later on, but for now let's focus on the material quality. It's pretty good. We have a combination, because we have the style package on this car, a combination of Alcantara and Artex, which is a sort of artificial leather on the sides over here. As you can see, you'll see it in the front as well. So Artex is used over here as well. We have contrasting stitching in blue, and these trims over here lit up at night, and they actually look really good. Also microfiber over here, and I'm not a fan of this gloss black plastic over here on the door handles. You'll see it in the front as well. It will get scratched up in time, but at least the interior of the door pockets is lined up with felt, so it feels kind of premium. And this is the rear bench. Now what I did notice is the fact that these seats are a bit too tilted for some people, so they will put pressure on the backs of people with, I don't know, bad backs. And I also like the fact that we have a flat floor, a completely flat floor over here, because we have the battery pack in the floor, and that levels things out. So yeah, pretty nice in the back. This seat is adjusted in my comfortable driving position, and you can see just how much room I have over here. Let's see the headroom. Not great, not terrible. I do barely graze it with the top of my head, but that's because of that shape of the roofline, as I said earlier, because this car was supposed to be made as aerodynamic as possible. The seat backs of the front seats have these storage spaces over here. You have another storage space over here. This car has 3-way climate control, so you can adjust the temperature for the rear seats independently, and 2 USB-C charging ports. And that's the dashboard of the new iD.7. We're gonna hop in the front and talk about it in a second. So this is the front door card. Same quality, build quality materials in the front as in the back. This is soft touch plastic, so it's going to be nice to use it on a daily basis. Artex over here, the contrasting stitching continues, and the same goes for the door trims, in this case with red backlight, but you can choose from up to 30 different colors. And we still have this cluster over here, which is annoying as hell, because if you want to open the rear windows, you have to touch this area over here. The same goes for locking and the child protection system. But the thing is, you're gonna touch these areas by mistake and do all sorts of crazy things. For example, arrive at a parking garage, try to open the front window to get your parking ticket, and whenever you press on the button, it will open the rear window because you didn't realize you touched that area. These are the Ergo Active seats, dressed in, as I said, microfiber and Artex. You have memory seats, and you have a massaging function as well. They are completely adjustable electrically, so that's a big plus. For some people, I wouldn't waste my money on such things. And this is what the interior looks like. Whenever you hop in the car, you are greeted by this huge screen. It's a 15-inch screen, in case you were wondering. And yes, it does work great. You can configure this screen however you like, so you just have to enter a sub menu. Now, what I like about it is that it moves really well, but I'm not a big fan of the size. I know there are bigger screens in the industry, but I'm not a fan of big screens anyway. So yeah, I would lose them if I could. A smaller screen would work for me. I like the climate menu. The fact that you can use smart climate. What does that mean? Well, basically you can choose an area of your body to be warmed or cooled, and the car will adjust the direction of the airflow by itself. Let's turn this on for the passenger, right? So let's say I want to cool this area, and it will adjust the direction of the airflow independently. If you want to adjust it manually, you have to drag on these buttons over here. I've seen this somewhere, but I don't remember where exactly. Maybe on a Tesla. Yeah, so the screen and this functionality does seem to be copied from a Tesla, but yeah. Or you can use auto mode, and the car will adjust every setting independently. We also have heated seats, not ventilated though, and we still have those touch sensitive controls at the bottom of the screen over here, which are driving people crazy. The good part is that you can turn off the speed warning feature really easily using this menu. The car is not turned on. This should turn it on. So yeah, if you want to turn off the speed travel assist, the speed warning, you can do it over here really easily. So yeah, that's probably going to be the first thing you do when you get inside the car. This is a steering wheel, still using touch sensitive areas. Not exactly my cup of tea, but you do get used to over time. The light cluster is over here. We do have a beefy signal stock over here, because we also have the gear change lever, directional lever, if you will, in this case, over here on the right side of the car, of the steering column. And we do have a small screen over here that shows you all the relevant information for your trip, and that is enough in combination with the head-up display. We also have a head-up display over here, which displays a number of useful information over here. This is the center console with a lot of storage space. This is a wireless charging port. We have two USB-C chargers, plenty of room for your cups and bottles and everything. You can even put your sunglasses over here, and we do have a huge center armrest as well. And in terms of space, I'm 6 feet tall, 250 pounds, and I fit in this car with no issues whatsoever. But the best part about it, apart from the space and the fit and finish, is the way this car drives and the numbers I got in terms of efficiency. So let's take a trip and talk about those issues as well. As I already told you, there are three iD.7 versions you can choose from. So there's the iD.7 Pro, which is the entry-level version. I'm driving that today with 286 horsepower and 545 Newton meters of torque, which uses a 77 kilowatt hour usable battery and rear wheel drive, because we only have one electric motor on the rear axle. There's the iD.7 Pro S, which has the same power output and the same configuration, but with a bigger 86 kilowatt hour battery on board, which should give you some more range, but it's going to be a bit heavier. This car tips the scales at about 2100 kilos. And there's the GTX version with 340 horsepower, but that one also uses the 86 kilowatt hour battery, but that one has all-wheel drive. So you will choose depending on what you need. I don't think the GTX will be a big seller because the power increase isn't that big, but I'm sure the power consumption might be a bit different, considerably different, and that would make people reconsider depending on the range they're looking for. Speaking of range, Volkswagen says that this car should do about 600 kilometers on a full charge. Well, I didn't really get that. Around town, I saw an average energy consumption of about 18.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers covered. And that should translate into a range of over 420 kilometers with a full charge. That was with an average speed of about 20 kilometers an hour, so not incredibly high because we are in Bucharest, which is a very crowded city and traffic is horrible. Then I hopped on a series of B roads with an average speed of about 60 kilometers an hour. The energy consumption was really low, about under 14 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers covered, which would be around a range of over 500 kilometers, which does get really close to the claimed figure of 600. And then I hopped on a highway where the energy consumption figure was around 18 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers covered, which should also give you a range of over 400 kilometers with a full charge. And that is impressive in my book, considering that other Volkswagen ID models didn't really fare that well in my range tests. So this car does seem to be pretty efficient overall, and the charging is impressive as well. Now Volkswagen says that it can go up to 200 kilowatts if you have such a powerful charger, but overall from 10% to 80% it should deliver an average of about 145 kilowatts in terms of charging power, which is impressive, and the charging time to 80% should be about 26 minutes. So yeah, that's pretty good. It's a step up compared to other ID models, which used to top out at 135 kilowatts in total. But what I like the most about this car is the way it drives. It's incredibly comfortable. It has one of the best suspensions out there if we're talking about Volkswagen electric car and electric cars in general. I would go as far as to say that it has one of the best suspensions of an electric car I've seen so far. Now this car is built on a dedicated EV platform, the MEB platform, which is shared with Ford to some extent and with some other Chinese manufacturers too, and it shows in this ride quality. Now I don't have the adaptive dampers installed on this car, the DCC Pro ones, but I did test drive a car with that system earlier this year and it was even better. Now the main difference I noticed is that the DCC equipped car was a bit more quiet over certain bumps. Now even though the suspension is incredibly comfortable and it does level all the imperfections in the road quite well, it does tend to eke out a squeak here and there on certain rougher patches of road. That's something I did not experience with the DCC version. So my advice would be to get the adaptive suspension if you can. In some markets it will be part of a package. Over here it is part of a package, but in some markets it may be offered as a standalone option. So if you can, grab it. It's a useful item. Another thing that I would definitely tick on this car is the adaptive cruise control. It works great. I tested it out on the highway earlier and it even changes lanes for you, so it's pretty impressive. Also, I would take the IQ Lite option, because especially if you're doing a lot of nighttime driving, because it will do its job brilliantly at nighttime. It does separate the oncoming traffic and the traffic in front of you from your high beams perfectly, and it lights up everything around them. So yeah, I would totally recommend that. Now in terms of other creature comforts, I don't know, you can choose this microfiber interior if you want to or not. I wouldn't get the electrically adjustable seats or the massage function. I don't really use it that often, but it depends on what you're looking for. And another thing I really liked about this car is how easy it is to drive around town. Even though it's a pretty long car at almost 5 meters long, since it has this MEB platform underneath it all, the wheels are positioned to the extremes of the car, so really close to the nose of the car and in the back as well. So even though it doesn't have rear wheel steering, allows you to turn rather nicely and park this car very easily despite its size, as I said. But visibility at the back isn't great, so I would recommend getting the 360-degree cameras, or at least the rear view camera, but I would get the 360 one because it will help out a lot. I would have preferred the steering to have a faster ratio, so whenever you're steering with this car around town, you have the impression that you have to do a bit more work than you would expect from such a heavily assisted steering system. Yes, it's an electronic steering system, and some electronic steering systems today are a lot faster. So basically you have to input a lot less effort to get the car to get where you're going. This surprised me. It's not horrible, don't get me wrong, but it does seem like you have to put in one extra turn to get full lock. So let's see what it takes to get full lock. So we're dead center now. That's 1.5 turns. So I think if it had just one turn, it would have been perfect. I would have preferred it to be a bit faster. In terms of power delivery, what I noticed is that even in comfort mode, the car does seem to be a bit too eager to go right from the start, and that's a bit unusual. I even tested the eco mode, so sometimes I prefer eco mode in order to tone down that eagerness of the car to get going. You can get the rear axle to skid really easily if you wanted to, so you will get those tires screaming. 19-inch wheels, as I said, 255 wide tires, but I would have preferred the acceleration pedal to be a bit less aggressive, because the moment you touch it, the car just goes. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour happens in 6.5 seconds on this version. The one with the bigger battery, the iD.7 Pro S, needs 6.6 seconds because it's a bit heavier, and the top speed is limited at 180 kilometers an hour, which should be enough for most people. Doing that kind of speed will destroy your range. So yeah, overall I do enjoy this car. I do enjoy one feature in particular a lot, the fact that we have internet radio, and basically that means you can listen to radio stations from around the world. You just go into the radio section and choose the country you want to listen to, the language you want to tune into. You can filter the radio stations by genre and so on. So I really like this feature. I've seen it on a number of cars before, but this is the first time I've actually used it, and I absolutely love it. What I also love is the fact that this car comes with adaptive regenerative braking as standard. So basically what that means is, if you're in traffic, I'm completely stuck right now, but if you're in traffic and you're driving, let's say you're doing like 50 kilometers an hour and the car in front of you starts to slow down because there's a light coming, all you have to do is take your foot off the brake and the car will start slowing down depending on the speed you're doing, the speed the car in front of you is doing. So that's really useful around town. It's not exactly e-pedal, or it's not one pedal driving, because you still have to come to a complete halt using the physical brakes, but it will brake depending on the distance to the car in front of you and the situation in traffic. So I really appreciate that about this car and every other car that has it, and I think it makes the whole regeneration process very useful, and that's essential for an electric car, which compared to an internal combustion car has the ability to recuperate energy and feed it back into the battery. So that cuts on your overall energy consumption. So yeah, I really like the way it works. Even the travel assist system, which basically uses the adaptive cruise control, but also takes into account how tight a corner is and if a junction is coming up, works really well. So what that does, whenever you're driving the car, and you have the system turned on, let's say you're doing 70 kilometers an hour and there's a turn coming up. The car knows that there's a turn coming up and automatically starts using that regenerative brake I told you about to slow down to about 35 kilometers an hour so that you'd be safe in that corner and recuperate energy in the process. Also, if a junction is coming up, you will get a notification in the instrument cluster over here or on the head-up display telling you that there's a junction coming up, so that you take your foot off the accelerator and the car starts to recuperate and still replenish the battery in the process. So I love this technology because it does make cars like this a lot more efficient overall. So overall, I think this is the best Volkswagen electric car on the market today. I don't think you should get an SUV. I know SUVs are popular right now, and I know a lot of car manufacturers are using an SUV-like shape. I don't necessarily call them SUVs because they can fit huge batteries in the floor and the car doesn't end up looking weird. This one is pretty tall as well, just because it has to fit all those batteries in the floor as well. So the design overall feels a bit taller than usual, but I would definitely get this car in front of an iD.7, for example, or an iD.4. I think it has just as much, if not more room, and it seems a bit more efficient. It's been a while since I've last test drove an iD.4. I know there's been some technical upgrades done to that car, but overall I really enjoyed my time with it. As for the pricing, well, it will depend on the market you're in. This car has a asking price with this configuration of 67,000 euros over here in Romania, but I heard there are some discounts available if you're interested in it. So yeah, it's been weird doing this review standing still in traffic, but I'm completely stuck right now. I have to get to a meeting, and it seems I had to do this while standing still. I know it's weird, but that's the situation in traffic today. Until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed my review. I hope you find it useful. And as I said, until next time, don't forget to hit that like button, to share this video, and maybe subscribe to keep this channel alive. Don't forget to feed your passions. Ciao.